Um, hey guys, this one here is going to be a little different than what I lined up because I got a few things I got to tend to. So if you've been following the last few things that I've been doing, I've done a little bit of everything. I'd have like upcoming news, schedule events, things like that. There hasn't been much changing on the calendar at that point, so feel free to you know, review the previous videos that I've done. Um, you know, so I'm going to focus primarily on a couple of different things. For this one, um, obviously, the internet and all that is a major part for most of us. Many of us have kids and things like that. Know that you have to use it for school and you know all of that good stuff, but there's dangers to using the internet if you don't moderate the usage for your household. Now, I'm not going to tell you what's appropriate and what's not because that's up to the individual household. But there are options out there for security and things like that that you can set up for your youngsters. I do recommend setting up this some security and whatnot just for your safety as well. Um, but you need to you know figure out what's appropriate and what isn't, and then you need to have those conversations with your people. But that's where I'm at on that now. One of the things that you can set up, and I usually do this because of the entertainment part of it, is you can set up a VPN, and the idea of VPN will allow you to view entertainment in another country. For example, I have a show that I watch called Mrs. Brown's Boys, and it is considered raunchy by the FCC standards, which therefore it's why it's not been aired in the United States that I'm aware of. It's actually, I think it's coming out of Ireland or England or something like that. But anyways, it's coming out of the European continent, so I would have to remote in using a VPN connection so I could watch, the full episodes. YouTube has, video clips and things like that, but so but there are drawbacks to using a VPN. Your connection speed will drop a little, but and then depending on who your VPN provider is, they may keep logs on everything that you do, which some people may not care, others do. You have to figure that out for yourself. I know my VPN provider does not keep, traffic logs or anything like that. If there are any logs, it's kept, on the actual workstation that will, remote in. Unless you have your whole network behind the VPN, then that might work a little different. But anyways, so the basics of the internet or this it is it came out in the late or in the 60s, you give or take, as ARPANET, which was designed for military communications in the event of a nuclear attack. It was made commercially, I believe, between 90 and 95, although the exact year is questionable. I'd have to look it up again. In fact, let me get to my notes on that because I do believe that it was early 90s, but I'm not 100% certain on that. Let's see, pulling up all my notes for yesterday. Oh, let's see, I think we've already. All right, yeah, I got my notes finally. Okay, so I have so the usual things. I know we're going to talk focus on the internet, but I want to go back to the calendar of events. March the 17th is the Board of Education meeting for the Tays Valley local. Um, they usually do that every month. The 14th of March is the Donkey basketball game, which tickets are $8 if you pre-order. Otherwise, they're $10 at the door. And this is Tays Valley stuff. 24th through the 28th is the spring break for Tays Valley. And then there's an Irish music concert March the 8th, 11 to noon. The seating is first come, first served. So you will have to call 614-836-3333 to reserve your spot. So like I said, the internet and the history behind it, this is going to be spread over a couple of different shows. I've already mentioned a couple of things. So some of the security options this is for users at home specifically. So if you're using enterprise industrial equipment like I do, then security can be a little more fine tuned, which I'm always in favor of because I've got options on my equipment I'm still finding every now and then. So for the basic user, we've got there's software versions. Security can be divided into two major categories. You got software and hardware, and both of those usually include firewalls. Now, for the home user, typical home user, mind you, versus somebody like me, the typical firewall that's on the little router that you can get at Walmart, which I do not recommend buying any of this at Walmart. If you have a computer store such as Micro Center, I don't know if Tiger Direct is still a thing. Newegg I know is a good one. I'm fortunate to have a local Micro Center in my area, so I can just go get whatever I needed. So that's where I would send you to get either software or hardware, versions of firewalls and things like that. However, each one has its drawbacks and whatnot. So I would suggest that the home user approach the firewall from two different methods. One of them obviously is a security firewall. You install the software on your computer system, and then on top of that, you have the hardware firewall, which is most of the time it's built directly into your home Wi-Fi router. I will tell you this: that the cable company routers are trash as far as security options and things of that sort. A lot of pitfalls, I think, from my perspective. But again, like I said, I'll stretch this over a series of 2 or 3 shows. Then you have to look at physical security, which simply means if your cable modem and router is actually secured in an area where it's not easily accessible by children or other people in the home. Because if they can access the router in the physical sense, they can reset it, and then that makes your security settings and everything else go back to factory default, which is hardly adequate. Then you've got internet monitoring for the children. Now this is a hot button issue. The reason being is that some content may be appropriate for some children, while some content may not be appropriate for the other children. So you have to balance that stuff in a way that it doesn't affect the adults in the family. So there are options for that, and that's why I do not like the home version of some of these routers, because let's face it, some of them need a lot of work in that regard. So there are programs out there and that you can install that should help with that. Then there are other, you know, hardware policies that you could set on your firewall that may, help with that depending on the type of firewall you get. So, I'm not going to tell you what's appropriate, what's not. I'm not going to lecture you guys on, you know, the issues of, content that have violence, the adult content, things of that sort. Um, Again, you have to judge for yourself what's appropriate and what isn't when it comes to your family and whatnot. So, however, if you have questions about possible solutions, then I will share my experience and what I've done to make things work. But if you want to set up like I've got, um, you're going to spend some money on it because it's like I said, I've got the prosumer and the enterprise grade type stuff, and well, it's worked well for me. So like I said, I touched base on the internet history, and I found that like I said, ARPANET was originally developed for the Department of Defense in the nuclear attack, which I mentioned that a few minutes ago. Prior to the high speed internet, and I'm talking about um, satellite and cable, and then WiMAX, which is another type. The primary methods were either dial up or ISDN. Now the ISDN is a thing that the phone companies had, and you would get at max maybe a meg and a half, up and down, and you'd have to pay. And I know I'm going to be off on this, but upwards of several $100s to maybe several $1,000 depending on the situation. Now broadband, um, DSL, satellite, and high speed are just some of the things that we've got. Now fiber optic is a huge thing depending on your area, which I know about 4 miles up the road, I could tap into the fiber optic hotline, the fiber optic line, but where I'm at, I don't see them running fiber out here because there's just not enough people that would tap into it. Now, if I got a good deal on it and if it came to my area, then sure I might be interested, because the theoretical speeds of fiber, like I said, theoretical, you could get up to 10 gigs or more bandwidth. But the only time I ever seen you know those kinds of speeds are in data centers. For your average home user, you might be pushing it for when you get a gig or two. But again, it depends on your usage. So a little more on the internet history aspect of it. And I thought this was really interesting when I started researching this. 1971, nearly 20 years before the internet was commercially available, the first email was sent over the ARPANET. Then, 2 years later, the first transatlantic connection was established, meaning a connection between continents. 1974, early versions of the TCP/IP protocols were developed. Now, for those that may not be technical, the TCP, the Transmission Control Protocol, and the Internet Protocol, is how data is sent out over the internet. Those protocols are more reliable than a UDP. UDP just keeps sending stuff and it doesn't verify if the packet's been received by the your recipient. But we still use UDP for certain things. The first personal computer modem was connected in 1977. Now, we haven't gotten to the point where the internet is commercially available. This is still government issue type stuff. Then 1983. Wow, I'm a year older than the internet, it seems like. the Internet's official birthday when the TCP/IP protocols were established. Now, keep in mind that the protocols went into development in '74, but it took almost 10 years for them to be, tested and all that good stuff. Now, we all hear every now and then when the internet starts to have problems that people are quick to blame the DNS, which, the DNS, think of it as a massive phone book that has the website name and the IP address of the website. So if you go to Disney.com, you're going to send a query to your ISP's DNS server, and then it's going to point that traffic to the actual computer system that has the website, and then it returns the request, and that's how you see the website you're looking at. Even if you're watching this, you're constantly sending queries to DNS, and then it's constantly sending replies back. That's how quick things have gotten with the modern technology. But in 1984, the DNS was invented, allowing users to type a domain name instead of IP addresses. So, I don't know about you, but I have trouble memorizing phone numbers. So, how would you memorize hundreds of IP addresses if you're wanting to get to a website? Unless you've got an eidetic memory, I just don't see it happening. So, like I said, the phone book comparison. A name is associated with an IP address, and that IP address points to the server that has the website address or whatever files you're in need of, and then that's how the whole TCP/IP process comes into play when you send it out and you get a response back. All right. 1985, for those of us that are older than dirt, AOL was launched as an online service provider. Now, this was prior to it being commercially available, but we can start seeing that investors, they seen where this was going to go, and this was 40 years ago. Holy smokes, it's 40 years ago today that AOL, this year that AOL came out. I just now realized that. Anyways, 1990, Archie. I don't know if any of y'all might be familiar with Archie, but it is the first search engine that was created. Then the following year, in 1991, the World Wide Web went public, and the first web browser, web search protocol, and webcam were introduced. Nowadays, you have a camera on. Well, if you got a phone, you got a camera. You most likely have a camera on your laptop. And if you don't have either one of those, you can go to your local store and get a webcam for anywhere from $10 all the way up to $150 is what I've seen. So, with that being as it is, there's been a lot of things that have happened. Now, as a result of the internet being the way it is, we now everybody uses the internet whether they want to admit it or not. For example, if you swipe your card at Walmart's or Kroger's or whatever, your information goes out over the internet now. With that being said, your information is supposed to be encrypted from the point that it leaves that terminal to the point that it gets to the credit card processing facility. Supposed to be, but we still hear about data breaches and things of that sort. So, I would take it with a grain of salt. With that being, as it is, for example, I use my card when I go to the computer store. It goes, into the machine, and it, gets converted over to, packets sent to their processing center. Then it comes back telling me that the payment is approved, and I sign off on the little receipt, or I use my PIN depending on which way I want to go with it. Um, so the internet is so ingrained. We're so ingrained, with the internet that most people would not be able to survive without it unless you're an old fart like I am. Anyways, with that being said, it looks like I've got a couple of people's watching. Um, let's see what's going on here. Like I said, I've seen a lot of things happen, you know, with the internet. I've seen a lot. I mean, we get our news, by picking up our telephones and by you know, just looking at I mean, you get your internet news. I mean, I flip my phone on, and one of the first things I do as part of my routine in the morning, I scroll through the news, and I catch up on social media and things of that sort. Anyways, so yeah, we get news on our phones. We get text messages. You can even do video calls. Apple uses FaceTime. You can also use Facebook Messenger and things like that. Um, so the internet has literally exploded to the point that they've run out of, well, they say they have run out of IP4 addresses, but that's to be debatable. Anyways, um, so with all of that, comes the security risks. There are inherent risks that you will probably hear about: data breaches, hacking, stuff of that sort. Don't let it scare you away, because it's really not that bad in my opinion. You just have to be safe and smart about what you do. Um, so with all that being as it is, um, let's see if there are any pertinent headlines that we need to look at. Let's see here. Yeah, we'll do it this way. All right, and these headlines are local, you know, issues for the Columbus area. It looks like there are heavy rain and storms impacting central Ohio. Although I do not. Let's see. It looks like the storms are up towards Milford Center, Maryville, towards Powell. Those areas. So if you guys want to keep an eye on what's happening with that. Um, as far as the southern part of the the south central part where where I'm at, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot going on at the moment. So just keep an eye on things. You know how it can get. Um, let's see. There's 4 juveniles, 1 adult hospitalized for carbon monoxide poison in a northeast Columbus home. They're still working that one out. Um, there is an individual who was struck this morning by 2 vehicles on I-70 west going towards Reynoldsburg. Um, if any of you guys have followed the news recently, I can't pronounce her last name, but Michelle Trachtenberg or something like that. She died this morning at the age of 39. She is known for Gossip Girl, Buffy, and I think Spy Kid or something like that. Apparently liver transplant complications. Um, Now, for those that are interested on the business side of things, it looks like Near East Side residents are having discussions regarding the potential growth in the historic King Lincoln Bronzeville neighborhood. I will be following that just to see how that turns out. Um, let's see. There are there's recovery centers around the area if you're having issues with addiction. Because drug flow into the communities is still an issue. Um, the Arnold Sports Festival is coming to Columbus again, scheduled for February 27th to March the 2nd. So if I was you, I would avoid Columbus because the traffic's going to be a pain in the rear end. Okay, here's another interesting article. Ohio lawmakers introduced a bill to invest taxpayer dollars into cryptocurrency. Um, I'm actually going to forward this to a friend of mine because I can only imagine what he has to say on stuff like this. But anyways, we're going down a rabbit hole, which is bound to happen. Um, let's see. Let's see. Anyway, so I just sent that over to him. I'm going to see what he thinks. Um, anyways, it may be a little bit. So at the end of it, I will tomorrow's recording. I'm planning on getting into more of the internet security aspect of it, and I may even have a few examples that I can show you without compromising my own security. So, these are now the equipment that I may be showing you tomorrow is a little old, but I'm not using that equipment anymore, so I've never bothered to, upgrade or update it. I mean, it's just sitting in a box somewhere. So, the stuff I use, I have mounted in a rack in my closet. So, I obviously won't be showing you that. Um, and then I will cover more detail some of the software stuff that you can use that would potentially, help secure things for your kids. So that recording for tomorrow may be a little long. And then I might actually do a pre-recorded thing later on to cover, that sort of thing. So that way you guys have the option of, starting and stopping at your own leisure instead of trying to catch up with it on, as things are, going on. So, with that being said, it looks like we're coming up on, 425, and I've got to, so but yeah, like I said, if you're, I imagine you've probably got some form of internet if you're watching this from home. So, this will be stuff that's probably relevant to you. So, especially if you have children and things of that sort. Um, so, with that being said, I am going to, hop off of here. And if you guys have any questions, just feel free to, you know, leave comments and stuff, and I'll, respond to you guys as soon as I can. Stay safe out there.